Welcome back, everybody, to the Deep Dive. We always try to bring you some thought-provoking stuff, and today is no exception. We're diving into this really powerful concept today, this idea of rewriting your own life story.
Oh, yeah, this is juicy.
It really is,
Right.
how to move from feeling like you're starting from zero to becoming, as the material puts it, unstoppable. We've got some pretty fascinating sources lined up, and our mission, as always, is to sift through all of it and pull out the gems, those key insights that you can actually use to kind of, take control of your own narrative, build some real confidence, and honestly create the life you want.
Yeah, it's all about that shift, going from feeling stuck, maybe even a little lost, to tapping into, well, I like how the source puts it, limitless potential.
Limitless, that's the dream, right?
Yeah.
And I think a good place to start is with this idea of starting from zero. I mean, on the surface, that might sound a bit daunting, like you're behind or something.
Right, like a disadvantage.
Exactly. But one of the sources we've been digging into, it flips that idea on its head. It argues that feeling like you're at zero, whether it's because of a major setback, your background, or just because you're craving something new, it's not a dead end.
It's more like, I don't know, a fresh start.
Yeah, a clean slate, where you
Yeah.
actually have the most control. It's not a weakness. It's a chance to really build something on your terms from the ground up.
Like a blank canvas,
Yeah.
the artist has complete freedom to create whatever they want.
I love that.
Hmm.
And to really shake things up, get you thinking outside the box, one of the sources throws out this really cool thought experiment. They say, imagine for a second that you have absolutely zero limitations. None.
No boundaries, no self-doubt, just pure possibility.
Right. What do you honestly believe you could achieve in that kind of wide open landscape? It's a great way to challenge those invisible walls we all build around ourselves. The ones we often don't even realize are there.
It makes you wonder.
Yeah.
What are we truly capable of if we could shed all those self-imposed limitations?
Exactly. Now, to bring this down to earth a bit, make it a little more real, the source material points to some pretty inspiring examples. We're talking about people like Oprah Winfrey, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, J.K. Rowling. What makes these stories so powerful is that each of them faced some serious challenges early on. They dealt with doubt from themselves and others, and, some of them straight up failed at times.
Yet they didn't let those early chapters define their whole story.
Not at all. They each, in their own way, rewrote their narratives and achieved some pretty incredible things. They became super influential. They went from, what some might consider zero in certain aspects of their lives to, well, undeniably unstoppable.
And you know what I find so fascinating?
What's that?
It wasn't like it happened overnight. It was their sheer tenacity that was so remarkable. These were journeys, full of ups and downs. I'm sure there were times when feeling unstoppable felt, well, impossible, but they kept going.
That perseverance is key, right?
Yeah.
The ability to learn from setbacks and keep pushing forward. It really makes you think, what was that turning point for them, that shift in perspective that allowed them to keep going when others might have just quit?
It's the million-dollar question.
It is. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty here. One of the sources dives into what it considers the most fundamental step in this whole rewriting process, and that is your mindset. It's not enough to just, wish for change. You have to deeply believe that change is actually possible, for you specifically.
Oh, I see. It's about that internal shift first. It reminds me of the whole self-efficacy thing in psychology. That deep down belief in your ability to succeed. Without it, the motivation to even start, let alone stick with it, it just crumbles.
Right, like trying to run a race with your shoelaces tied together.
Exactly. And that leads us nicely into the whole growth mindset concept, which the source contrasts with what they call a fixed mindset.
Yeah, can you unpack those a bit for us?
Sure. A fixed mindset is basically thinking that your talents, your intelligence, your abilities, they're all pretty much set in stone, like you can't really change them that much.
And a growth mindset.
A growth mindset is the opposite. It's that belief that you can actually develop your abilities, your intelligence, even your skills over time through effort, through learning, through, sticking with it.
So it's about potential, about constantly evolving.
Precisely. And the implications of this are huge. Someone with a fixed mindset, they might shy away from challenges because they see failure as a reflection of their inherent ability, like a judgment.
Makes sense. They're less likely to try new things or push themselves.
Exactly. But a growth mindset, that cultivates resilience. It fuels a love of learning as a way to get better. It fosters that willingness to keep going even when it gets tough. Because setbacks, well, they're just seen as feedback, as valuable information.
So with a growth mindset, challenges become opportunities for growth.
Precisely. And one of the sources offers a really practical tip for shifting towards a growth mindset. It's about paying attention to your self-talk.
How so?
Well, let's say you're struggling with something and you catch yourself saying, I'm just not good at this. Instead of letting that negative thought spiral, you actively rephrase it. You ask yourself, what specific skills or knowledge can I develop to improve in this area?
So you're shifting the focus from a limitation to a path for improvement.
Exactly. And it might sound like a small thing, but that shift in language can have a surprisingly big impact on your perspective and your willingness to take on that challenge.
I love that. Okay, so we've started to nurture that growth mindset, right? What's the next step?
The source material argues that the next crucial step is to create a really powerful vision for your future.
Not just like vague hopes and dreams, right?
No. It's about painting a clear picture of what you want to achieve, who you want to become. It's that North Star that guides you, keeps you motivated, especially when things get tough.
Okay, but it's got to be more than just a pretty picture, right?
Right. It can't just stay in the realm of fantasy. It has to be grounded in some way.
So what makes a powerful vision?
It's got to be ambitious, something that truly inspires you. And above all, it has to be authentically you. Nobody else gets to define that vision except you. Launching a business, becoming a leader in your field, traveling the world, whatever it is, that vision becomes your roadmap.
I love that. It's about claiming ownership of your story.
Absolutely. But here's a really important point the source makes. A vision, no matter how inspiring, it can't just remain a daydream.
Right, it has to be translated into action.
Exactly. And that means setting concrete goals. This is where the rubber meets the road. You've got to be willing to put in the work consistently, even when that initial excitement fades.
And that's often the hardest part, right? Staying committed when the going gets tough.
It is. But here's a take action tip the source suggests. Write down your top 3 goals. And I mean any area of life that matters to you. Then break each of those bigger goals down into much smaller, more manageable steps.
Okay, so you're creating a plan.
Exactly. Ask yourself, what's one tiny action I can take today? What about this week? And what's a slightly bigger step I can aim for this month? Those small, consistent actions are what transform that big, inspiring vision into something real. It's like climbing a mountain. You don't teleport to the top, you take it one step at a time.
Makes sense. All right, so we've got our growth mindset in place, and we've defined our vision. What's next in this from zero to unstoppable journey?
Well, according to our source, the next key ingredient is developing what they call an unstoppable mindset. And I think it's important to clarify what that actually means.
Yeah, because it's not about, like, being superhuman or never encountering problems, right?
No, not at all. It's more about how you choose to respond to those inevitable challenges that life throws at you.
Okay, so it's about resilience.
Absolutely. An unstoppable person, they don't let setbacks define them. They see failure as part of the process, as feedback that can help them learn and improve. They understand that the path to achieving anything worthwhile is rarely a straight line.
So they keep going no matter what obstacles they encounter.
Exactly. And one of the sources provides a really insightful tip for cultivating this mindset. When you face a setback, and trust me, we all do, try to consciously reframe your thinking around it. Instead of letting it defeat you, ask yourself 2 key questions. What valuable lessons can I take from this? And how can I actually use this setback to get closer to my goal?
So you're turning a potential negative into a potential positive.
Right. It's subtle, but that shift in perspective can be hugely powerful in helping you maintain momentum and that feeling of agency, that feeling that you're in control of your story.
I like that a lot. Okay, so we've got the mindset, the vision, the resilience. What's the final piece of the puzzle?
Well, according to the source material, it all comes down to consistency. It's easy to feel motivated and excited at the beginning, but what separates those who actually achieve their goals is their ability to keep going even when that initial enthusiasm wears off.
It's about showing up day after day, even when you don't feel like it.
Exactly. And the source really emphasizes the power of habits in building that consistency. Those regular, sometimes seemingly small actions you take each day, they create a kind of snowball effect over time.
So how do we cultivate those supportive habits?
It starts with identifying the actions that will directly contribute to your vision. Maybe it's dedicating time each day to work on a specific project, or committing to learning something new, or prioritizing your well-being. The key is to start small, make it manageable, and focus on consistency above all else.
And the take action tip they offer is pretty simple. Choose one specific habit, one that feels easy to do, and start implementing it today. Even something as small as spending 5 minutes journaling or setting a timer to focus on work can make a difference.
The point is to build that foundation, to prove to yourself that you can be consistent. Once you have that, you can start building on it.
I love that. All right, so as we wrap up this deep dive, the takeaway message is pretty clear. No matter where you're starting from, no matter what setbacks you've faced in the past, you have the power to rewrite your story.
By nurturing a growth mindset, creating a vision, cultivating resilience, and prioritizing consistent action, you can truly transform your life. It's not just wishful thinking. It's about taking those tangible steps.
And if we circle back to that thought experiment we talked about earlier, the one where you imagine having no limitations, well, this whole process of rewriting your narrative, it's how you start to break down those self-imposed barriers in real life. It's about moving closer to that state of truly limitless possibility.
It's empowering stuff.
It really is. Your story, your future, it's yours to create. It's not fixed by your past. So as you go about your day, think about this. What's one small but meaningful action you can take today to rewrite your narrative? What one step will bring you closer to becoming the unstoppable version of yourself?
That's the challenge, and that's the opportunity.
Couldn't have said it better myself.